A nice little repayment from the MLB DFS deities for today for last night's slate where there was basically no pitching to pick from. Today, we kind of have too much because we have Garrett Cole and Shane Bieber at the top end, but also a decent number of mid-range pitchers who have the upside to keep up with them. So I think it's a fun slate. It's a pretty fascinating one as I get something caught in my throat. I'm so excited. I am sucking down dust particles that are getting caught in my throat. We are ready for today's slate for MLB DFS, or maybe we're not. I don't know. Either way, we're going to break it down right here today, right now. It is the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. My name is Jim Sadas. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to answer your questions for the next 25 minutes about tonight's MLB DFS slate. We can talk about those mid-range pitchers I like. We can talk about why I think that Cole and Bieber are worth their salaries, despite those mid-range pitchers. We can talk about the value plays I am targeting to get to Cole and Bieber. Whatever your question may be, get those questions in for tonight's slate. We can also talk general MLB DFS process as well. There we go. We'll take questions from YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. So no matter where you are watching this stream, you can get your question in about tonight's MLB DFS slate. One quick thing to mention is while we are back here once again tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, breaking down rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft with Ryan Williams, JJ Zacharyson, Brandon Gadula, and myself. The DFS betting and season-long implications, also dynasty implications of each pick. We'll also give away another NFL jersey. If they didn't win last night, come back today, 7 p.m. Eastern, to check that out here on the YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter channels. First question from Michael. If you go low salary on pitcher, who are you wanting to spend up for? So it's the same stacks, Michael. The same stacks I talked about, the Yankees and the Red Sox. I would just go with the higher salaried guys within those stacks. So I don't believe there's any JD Martinez for today for the Red Sox. You're not getting there. But, Rafael Devers is $3,600. Alex Verdugo is $3,200. No Red Sox lineup as of yet, but we have Giancarlo Stanton. I think Aaron Judge. Yeah, Aaron Judge is back in there. So it's still the same stacks, Michael, just the higher salary guys within those stacks. I don't need to go for the value across the board on those stacks when I have the low salary pitchers. So it's the same stacks, just different guys there. And I mentioned the Braves this morning too. Would go there, get to Ronald Acuna, which we will always be in favor of. So it's the same stacks, just different guys within the stacks. Alvin, 2 questions. Does the Yankees' wind take you off of Cole some? And do you like any of the Reds, Marlins, and Blue Jays? So let's go to the weather page here over on numberFire. 20 miles per hour out to right field. That's definitely a thing to consider. A couple of reasons why I'm still okay with Cole and still very high on Cole is the temperature is 59 degrees. So that is going to be pretty effective in keeping the ball in the yard. The ball does not fly as well when it is colder. It's not as cold as it is for Shane Bieber in Chicago, but it does still help that it is not super hot in New York. The other thing is that it's kind of like we talk about when Trevor Bauer is at Coors Field. In order to take advantage of good hitting conditions, you first must hit the ball. And I don't know how often the Tigers will do that. Garrett Cole this year, a 42% strikeout rate. The Tigers against righties since started last year, a 26% strikeout rate. They might not put the ball in play that much. So while I think that it does decrease the floor a bit for Garrett Cole, maybe that does push you over the edge and go Shane Bieber over him for cash games. I personally would still go with Garrett Cole there because I just don't know how often they'll be able to take advantage of that wind. So to me, it is still Garrett Cole for cash games. I think that Bieber is very good, so you can very easily justify going Bieber. If you are worried about the win, totally fair. I understand that for sure. You can go Bieber. Very good alternative, very safe outlet, a lot of upside there as well. Personally, I think that I'd still go with Garrett Cole as my top pitcher from a cash game perspective. Do you like any of the Reds, Marlins, and Blue Jays? Okay, let's go through here, go to the hitting tab and check them out. The Reds, facing Jake Arrieta, does a good job of limiting hard contact in general. A 7.6% barrel rate is a bit better than average so far this year. So I'm not super into using them. They're good, just not super into them. The Marlins are facing John Lester. So Lester last year didn't have the best year. The Marlins, decent against lefties. I wouldn't say they're like a priority for me. I think that you could be okay with the Marlins. Let's look at John Lester's numbers last year and see what he did. This is his first start this year. He had COVID, so a slow ramp up for John Lester as he tried to get stretched out before he came back with the rotation here for the Nationals. 5.16 ERA, slightly above average ground ball rate, not a lot of whiffs. I think the Marlins are fine. If you have options that you want to turn to, I think that they would be okay. They're not a priority for me. I'd rank the Braves, the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Mets above them. But I do think that if you're looking for alternatives for stacking, the Marlins would be a consideration, not a priority for me. I might not get there personally, but I think that they're at least on the table. And then the final one was the Blue Jays. Blue Jays are facing Drew Smyly. No, I like Drew Smyly. He gives up a lot of hard contact, so you could get some solo home runs, but I'm okay avoiding there. The strikeout rate should be pretty good for Drew Smyly. Aaron says hello. What's up, Aaron? Back over on Facebook today. Nice. Bouncing all over the place, but I like it either way. Jorge, are you worried about the Cole with the winds blowing out at 30 miles per hour? Yeah, again, like we talked about, it does lower his floor a bit, but the ceiling is still very good. And in order to take advantage of that, you got to put the ball in play. And I'm not sure if they'll do that. So it is something to consider for sure that the wind is blowing out as hard as it is, but it's not going to alter my view, especially with the temperature being 59 degrees. It does change things for sure. It does help, but it's not going to be enough to push me off of Cole. That could be a mistake. I think that's a very real possibility. And if it happens, it happens. I've made plenty of mistakes before, but I think that I'm still comfortable with Cole as number one. Maybe you do go Bieber in a cash game, but personally, I'd still feel comfortable taking Cole there despite the win. Michael, do you ever watch sports for fun? So the sports I would watch for fun are the sports I happen to cover. So when I watch baseball, I can say it's for work because it kind of is. So I tend to skew more towards the Twins when it comes to watching baseball games because I got my Twins shirt on under here. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm a Twins fan, so I'll watch the Twins recreationally, and then I'll have other games on and stuff like that. The other sports I would watch for fun, hypothetically, are NASCAR and football, and those happen to be sports that I cover. So it's kind of weird where the sports that I watch for fun are also the sports that I do with my work. So I get very lucky in that sense. numberFire and JJ Zachariason, they're very kind to me. They let me talk about the sports I want to talk about. I don't know a lot about basketball or hockey. I don't watch them a lot recreationally, so I don't talk about them. We got Tom Vecchio and Brandon Gadula and all these people that cover those for me. I don't have to. So I actually get very lucky that they are super flexible with the way things work. So the way that I judge it is I'm watching stuff for work, but a lot of these things I'd be watching stuff for fun anyway. So kind of, I don't know. It's a crossover, Michael. They're kind of both. I'd watch NASCAR for fun. I watch it for work, but I'd watch it for fun too. Same thing with baseball, same thing with football. So kind of both, I guess, if that answers your question. Okay, so let's talk about some of the lower salaried pitchers here for today that I like, because maybe you're scared about Garrett Cole's win. Maybe you're scared about the matchup for Shane Bieber. The White Sox are very good, so I get why you'd be scared of that. So let's say you want to spend down. I think your best outlet is with Andrew Heaney. Andrew Heaney is volatile. He can get knocked around. He can let up some hard contact, and some things can get really bad, but a lot of strikeouts. 37% strikeout rate so far this year. The Mariners, the highest strikeout rate on the slate at 27%. 85 WRC plus. That is the third worst mark on the slate. So I think that Andrew Heaney has the juice to keep up with the big dogs. He went 101 pitches in his most recent start. So that definitely does help things as well. So I think that Heaney's the number one value play for today. Other guys you could consider for values: John Means facing the Athletics. I would also put Brady Singer on that list facing the Twins. 3.19 skill interactive ERA, 28% strikeout rate. Good batted ball data for Singer both last year and this year. And then the other guy worth considering, Pablo Lopez, not the best matchup from a strikeout perspective, but he gets strikeouts himself. So I would say Lopez, Means, Heaney, and Singer all worth considering for value plays, but Heaney would be the one I would rank highest there. Why doesn't Brandon like baseball? He thinks it's boring, I'm pretty sure. You'll have to ask him. I don't want to put words in his mouth. That seems like a dangerous thing to do. I think he thinks it's boring. I disagree personally because I love strikeouts. I love home runs. That's basically all that baseball is right now. So I'm having a great time. They've been talking about moving the mound back. No, I want these strikeouts, man. As a DFS player, strikeouts and dingers is all that I want. So I've been very happy with it. Brandon, He's not buying in, thinks season is too long. So feel free to yell at him on Twitter about that. I endorse it fully. Mateo, I am in New York, so I'm going with the Yankee right-handed bats. Which ones do best versus Scooble's pitches? Okay. So let's pull up Scooble and see what he's doing. The velocity's been kind of weird for Scooble this year, I believe. If I recall, let's see what the notes are. On Tarek Scooble. Are you going to the Yankees game, Mateo? If you are, that's cool. But let's see here. Okay, so he added a splitter this year. That's kind of fun. He's also throwing more sliders. Okay, so he's going with the solo shot approved route of going more sliders. We will always take that. Let's see what other pitches he is leaning on so far this year. So it's a fastball and a slider primarily, with that splitter being mixed in. I would say, Mateo, before you look at pitch numbers or pitch stuff, I would look at handedness first. And I know that you focus on this a lot, so I'm preaching to the choir here. But looking at their numbers versus lefties, Aaron Hicks actually has really good numbers. I think he's batting sixth for today. He is batting sixth. That's a good thing. So Hicks, I think, is someone who benefits here. DJ LeMahieu, a bit more hard contact versus lefties and righties. So I know I have a no DJ LeMahieu pretty hard stance that I take. Willing to wiggle on that for today just because it's a lefty. So I'm okay with that. Oh, no Yankees game for Mateo. Maybe next time. Gleyber Torres, he's been hitting the ball harder recently. Low strikeout rate versus lefties. I know the WRC plus here is low, but WRC plus is tough to trust over 82 plate appearances or 64 plate appearances. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. He's been hitting the ball a lot harder recently. Same thing with Gio Urshela. The actual power numbers very low versus lefties, but if you look at him overall this year, he's actually been making some loud contact, been getting some decent results. So I know that like Urshela and Torres don't have the best numbers against lefties and the numbers I'm looking at, but I bet those numbers will get better. Urshela's barrel percentage has been going up. Strikeout rate's up too, so probably some sacrifices there to generate more power, but it's working. So I think that Urshela is grading out well, Torres grading out well, Aaron Hicks grading out well, and that's on top of Aaron Hicks and Giancarlo Stanton. So Alvin asked about my favorite Yankees bats for today. I have to be selective here because I know I'm trying to get to Garrett Cole or Shane Bieber. So let's put Garrett Cole in here so we know what we're working with. Okay, so 28.50. I'm going to go to the Yankees lineup here, and I'm going to put in Torres at shortstop because I do want to fill that. Get that out of the way. I'm going to put Aaron Hicks in the outfield, and I'm going to put Gio Urshela in at third base. Once I do that, I've got 3,000 left. That means, and because I have three guys already in there, I will only be able to use one of Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Hicks. So we have to decide, do we want to go with Stanton or do we want to go with Judge? Let's pull up the numbers here. I don't want to look against lefties because it's going to be a small sample for both these guys because they both miss a lot of time. And I want to see what their barrel percentages and their strikeout rates have been so far this year. We got a big enough sample here where we can actually start to put some stock in those numbers. And if one guy has a massive edge in either number, we can feel good about ranking them higher between the two. Okay, so a 14.8% barrel rate for Stanton, that's very good. 28.4% strikeout rate. He's the healthier guy between the two. That's a positive. Feeling pretty good about Stanton as of right now. Judge, 18.9% barrel rate, actually a lower strikeout rate, but he's coming off an injury. So it depends on your level of comfort. I have been leaning more on Stanton personally the past couple of days or the past week or so when I've been stacking the Yankees much, partly because Judge was out, but I've been leaning towards Stanton. I think you can defend both. If you were to force me to choose, which I should because you asked, I would say Stanton just because he's healthier. However, it's kind of pick your poison. You know, whichever one you prefer is the right choice. I happen to prefer Stanton by a tiny bit, but there's not really a wrong answer here. If we go with Stanton as the fourth member of the stack, 28.25 left. That's not bad. I think I can make that work given some of the value plays elsewhere. The Braves lineup looked pretty good from a value perspective. Let's pull that up here. See what we're working with there. We've got Travis d'Arnaud at a good spot in the order, batting fifth for them. We've got Dansby Swanson batting sixth. Marcell Ozuna is 31. That's not like super low salary, not necessarily moving the needle a ton. So let's pull up Austin Riley's numbers against lefties since the start of last year, see what he's been doing. I know that we looked into him overall recently, earlier this week, and the overall numbers for him were pretty good. So let's look at him against lefties. 27% hard hit rates, 36% fly ball rate, still a lot of strikeouts, a 196 ISO. Let's pull up the overall numbers here for Riley as well to see what he's been doing, because if we can get to him, that would help at $2,500. Maybe we can go Ozuna. 5.6% barrel rate. That's not super impressive. Not a ton of power so far. He's actually been a higher strikeout guy against lefties and righties, so he's fine. I will use him, but like not a priority. I think that between the value bats and the Braves and some other teams, you should be able to make that work. Odor's been hitting lefties well this year. Small sample size, but do you like him? I've been using him against righties personally because he's actually like, it's weird. His plate discipline numbers are like absurd. And that's why he's not with the Rangers anymore, is because he just had the worst plate discipline in history outside of like Javier Baez and previously Eddie Rosario. But weirdly, like a good eye at the plate so far this year, a 16% strikeout rate, 7% walk rate. The Rangers just throwing their hands up. No idea where this came from. I would not put a lot of stock in the numbers versus lefties, though, because I would bet, 20 plate appearances for Odor versus lefties. So let's expand the sample here. Look back at the past couple of years. Last year against lefties, a 146 ISO over 48 or 51 plate appearances. The year before that, 189, 248 ISO. So he actually had decent numbers against lefties back in 2019, had a 51% hard hit rate. So overall, probably seems like a guy who is better than your average lefty versus lefties, but I'm still a bit skeptical of it. The other reason why I feel okay not being as high on Rougned Odor. Actually, it looks like he's not in the lineup, but he's at ninth, so that helps too. But the other reason too is there are legitimately really good value plays on this Yankees team I can use. I didn't even talk about Clint Frazier, but Clint Frazier is $2,100. I'd rather go there. So I would say lower in the order, or sorry, I was reading the question ahead. I would say Frazier, Hicks, Urshela, and Torres, all value plays I prioritize over Odor. But I would say, Alvin, like if we get Odor batting higher in the order at some point against lefties, and he keeps doing what he's been doing from a plate discipline perspective, I'd be willing to use him, just not for tonight specifically, given we have other plays that I do like more. But good question there. I think that was a good one. Do you ever prioritize away teams since they are guaranteed to bat in the ninth? I was reading this was a couple years ago. I believe it was written by Brian Mears on Fantasy Labs. I think I could be totally off on this as well. Brian Mears, a former numberFire guy, so love his work, would follow him for sure. I believe he wrote a piece on whether we should actively target favored teams that are on the road because they'd be guaranteed to get that ninth plate appearance. I do think that it's nice. Like, I definitely think it's good. And if you can like Google for that piece, I'd recommend reading that because they actually have data behind it. So data matters more. Trust the data if you can find it. I'm telling you to read their piece. For me personally, I don't ding home teams. I think that's the way I'd phrase it. I do not ding home teams because they're not guaranteed a ninth plate appearance. And the reason is, if they're winning, that means they've scored enough runs to be ahead at that point. So that means you're guaranteed a couple of runs there. The other reason is that you don't tend to get a lot of points out of guys late in games. It tends to be you are getting the majority of your points early on against a starter or against middle relievers. Usually, if they need that ninth plate appearance to squeeze out additional points, it means they're probably facing either higher leverage relievers. They just haven't been very good. So I would say that there is value in doing it. And you should, like, if you're trying to do a tiebreaker, like actually a tiebreaker, there is nothing else separating them, give the preference to the away team because they do get that ninth at bat. But I'm not going to bump a home team down. So I think it's a great thing to think about. I think it's tremendous. I think that you should definitely put stock in that. Again, try to find that piece that I was talking about at Fantasy Labs. Search. I think it was Brian Mears who wrote it. Just search for that. The data. They have the data they can dig through and tell you if you should actually do so. My personal preference, though, is it's going to have to be a very unique situation where I am actually very torn on two stacks, and there'll be a tiebreaker in favor of them. So that's the way I view that. But A good question, and I would try to find that piece. It was one I enjoyed for sure. JD Martinez is in the lineup. Oh, buddy. I thought he was out. This is great. So let's refresh here and see what the Red Sox lineup is out. It sounded like he was going to miss, so I'm excited about this. So we had JD Martinez, Arroyo. Oh, no. We lost Kike Hernandez batting leadoff, though. So we get JD Martinez. We lose our beautiful son, Kike Hernandez, batting leadoff. But if I recall correctly, I'm pretty sure Arroyo's not too bad. He actually also might be super low salaried. So I'm going to refresh this here so we can get in the lineup for the Red Sox. Let's go here to Boston, pull up their numbers versus righties. Since the start of last year, let's sort by plate appearances, so we're seeing things clearly. Arroyo has 70 plate appearances, 175 ISO. I can work with that. That's totally okay. I've used way worse players than this in previous DFS lineups. I'm going to put Garrett Cole in there. Oh, he's already in there. Sweet. Thank you. Okay, let's go down to Red Sox and hope this has already been filled in here. Nope, not yet, but that's okay. We know who is where. That is okay. Arroyo is $2,200, fills second base. I don't have to use DJ LeMahieu. Bless the Red Sox, man. Saving me from me. So Arroyo actually does move the needle in a pretty big way. Although I'm sad, it means no Kike Hernandez. I'll take it. This is great. Actually, a Twitch question about the Red Sox too. Are they legit, or is this just a random hot run? So I'll get back to the stack in a second. I ran my power rankings entering the season, and they actually had the Red Sox pretty high, and I didn't believe it and did not make bets based on it, and I feel very stupid now. So the numbers that I ran, like the Red Sox, I'm assuming it's because that they were expecting regression from JD Martinez this year, getting back to closer to his old form. I was skeptical that would happen personally, and I'm very happy to be wrong about that. So they were into them. They're playing very well. I don't think it's totally fluky. The thing that they'll run into is that the Yankees long-term will be good. I think the Blue Jays will be very good. I'd expect the Rays to be pretty solid. So it's still a tough division, but I wouldn't say that their team is fluky. I think that, what they've been doing is actually pretty solid. Okay, so we got Arroyo in the leadoff spot here. We got Verdugo. We've got Bogarts, Devers. Christian Vasquez we can at least look at. I know I'm not super fond of using him against righties. 33% fly ball rate, 135 ISO. That's not necessarily what we're looking for. Let's see what he's done so far this year, though, and see if we can have some more faith in him. 3.1% barrel rate. No, thanks. Okay, so the Red Sox aren't going to give us a whole lot of value. Bobby Dahlbeck, that could be kind of fun. They're facing Kohei Arihara, who doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. That's a bump up for Dahlbeck. Okay, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go Dahlbeck at catcher/first base. Oh, he's third base eligible too. That's fun. I'm going to put Devers, because I love Devers, in at third base. And depending on the salary you've got is what you want to do here. If you can get to Martinez, do so. He's awesome. But I might not be able to do so knowing the way that things are looking for me elsewhere. So I'm probably going to wind up going with Verdugo just because he's more realistic from the salary perspective with Cole being in there a pitcher. This kind of goes back to, I believe it was Michael's question before, where who we bump up if we go with a value pitcher. There you get to JD Martinez. You prioritize him within this lineup. But I think that that's probably a good stack for the Red Sox here. Being okay taking some risk with Dahlbeck, getting the salary savings with Arroyo, Devers and Verdugo, two guys I like quite a bit. Diffuse, do you like Conforto if he's in the 4-hole more, or Dominic Smith for how well he hits against Chase Anderson? I wouldn't worry about the batter versus pitcher stuff, because Dominic Smith, batter versus pitcher against Chase Anderson, is probably 9 plate appearances or so. It's a small sample. I would not look at that personally. I like all the Mets, though, personally. I think they're in a good spot against Anderson. He's kind of not that great against anyone as of right now, so I'm not going to worry too much about BVP stuff. And we got Conforto batting 5th. Dominic Smith, I was worried about that. Got moved down to 7th, and that's because he's been really struggling so far this year. So it makes sense he can move down to 7th. So we do the Mets lineup. Jeff McNeil batting 3rd. Let's pull up the Mets numbers here. I want to look at the Mets numbers against righties just this year, because we've seen guys like Dominic Smith struggling. We've seen Conforto struggling at times. I want to see what they've done in 2021 from a peripherals perspective against righties to see who we should have faith in against Chase Anderson. So Lindor doesn't have the best numbers, but good play discipline numbers still. I know the ISO is low, but I'd still be willing to trust him there. Dominic Smith batting 7th. Not the best contact profile. Conforto, more hard contact, fewer fly balls, but a lower strikeout rate. So Conforto batting 5th, I am on board with. Where is Nimmo? Nimmo is leadoff for today. Against righties this year, 16% fly ball rate. What's going on there, man? That's not very fun. Jeff McNeil, I do like. So I actually think that McNeil could work out pretty well. We can do that. So let's go over here, see if the Mets lineup is loaded in. And it's not. So I'm going to load or clear this, and we're going to refresh. See if we can get both the Red Sox and the Mets lineups loaded in here. For today, we're going to go to Mets. Still not in. Oh, well. Nimmo is $2,900. I'll take that. Conforto is $2,800. Sure. Jeff McNeil, second base. Again, no LeMahieu. Love it. So I would say those are probably the 3 first guys I'm plugging in. Lindor's salary is low, so I know, again, the numbers are pretty rough so far this year. The peripherals are rough as well. But at that salary, it's kind of hard for me to pass him up. So I would say, given that we're working under the assumption that I'm going with Garrett Cole as my pitcher, this isn't a bad 4-player stack. It gets you, I think, the 1, 2, 3, 5 hitters. That's not too bad. So I would say that's probably the stack I'm looking at here with the Mets. 28.75 left for your remaining batters. You can go with Urshela at third base, stuff like that. You can go Devers maybe at third base and put Arroyo at the utility. So I think the Mets lineup does look pretty well, or look pretty good for us, and I'd probably be focusing on those 4 guys primarily within my Mets stack. That is all the time that we have for today. I want to thank you all once again for tuning in. Do not forget, we are back here once again at 7 p.m. Eastern on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter channels. We'll be taking your questions there as well, talking about the NFL Draft rounds 2 and 3. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you come back today, enter for a chance to win an NFL jersey of your choice. That is for tonight over on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. If you have additional questions for me before then, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, Jimsannes. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. But I'll talk to any of you tonight. Enjoy the NFL Draft. Enjoy the Kentucky Derby. Enjoy some NASCAR on Sunday, and have a fantastic weekend. We'll talk to you all once again on Monday. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A.